Hey all, welcome to Cooking with Comrades. I am Brett, your host. Today we are going to make a functioning gingerbread guillotine because even among the world of pastry, the financiers are out of control. Financiers being both a delicious, if overly rich, almond flour pastry and some of the worst people in our society. Let's get rolling. We're going to break this into a few different pieces here just to make it a little bit easier to put together. Obviously a lot of gingerbread, which we're going to score and cut using a stencil. Then we're going to make the guillotine blade. The guillotine blade is made out of sugar glass. I put a little decoration on it, but you don't really need that. It still looks good without. And then finally some royal icing. That'll be used to glue it all together. So let's start with the gingerbread first. So we're gonna go ahead and mix the ingredients. You can do it by hand, it'll just be a little bit more time consuming. I'm gonna use the old mutual aid machine here. And what we're gonna do is put this on low and mix everything but the flour together. You're gonna wait until it's fully incorporated and smooth. You're waiting for it to be as smooth as Bernie's forehead on a debate night. All right, that looks about good. So the parchment that I measured earlier for my pan, I go ahead and pull out. I'm gonna put all the dough on it and work within this parchment area because that's the exact amount of area I know I have. We're gonna go ahead and knead it together. Got a little spare flour to work with if it gets too sticky, and then we'll start rolling it. So go ahead and grab a rolling pin. I roll mine to about 1/6 of an inch. I found works well. Too much thicker than that, it doesn't fully cook in the middle before the outside starts to get too crispy and a little burnt. You can go thinner. I just worry about fragility at that point, so this has been the sort of sweet spot for me. So about 1/6 of an inch. So now we're gonna go ahead and use our stencil that we made earlier. You're gonna lay it on and score it. The most important part of this is that you're just cutting it. You are not actually pulling the pieces away, because if you do, then it'll spread. So you're scoring it so that when we pull out of the oven, we can cut it quickly, not actually removing any of the surrounding bits right now. Okay, so our dough is scored. It's ready to go in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 350. I have my timer set to 22 minutes. Keep in mind there's gonna be some variation here, especially between ovens. For instance, my oven, much like my family, runs a lot colder than normal. So I cope by turning the oven up slightly and by making delicious baked goods for strangers to buy their love. It's working pretty well. Before you get it out of the oven, make sure you're ready to go. You want to make sure you have a knife or a pizza cutter. I find works really well for the long straight bits. Something where you can do the fiddly bits like an X-Acto or utility knife or small paring knife will work too. So what's going to happen is we're going to pull it out of the oven. We're going to cut out the shapes that we scored earlier. The main thing is speed here, because the minute it cools and sets, it'll be impossible to cut because it gets that delightful crispiness, which tastes fucking amazing and it makes it really good to use for construction, but is impossible to cut at that point. It'll just fall apart. So we have to cut it while it's still hot. You're gonna burn your fingers a little bit. These are the things you do for socialism. You'll be fine. While the gingerbread is cooling, we'll work on the guillotine blade, which is just sugar glass. So it's very easy as far as recipe goes. It's a little tricky because molten sugar is always fucking tricky because it's gonna burn the hell out of you. So for that, you're gonna need a few things: corn syrup, water, sugar, cream of tartar. It creates a lot, so beware of that one. You're gonna need a mold of some kind, and these are kind of a pain. So I made my own molds. It's not the easiest process in the world, but it is doable. You can also make one with aluminum foil and saran wrap. Basically, you cut out the shape you're gonna make a mold of. I cut a little piece of plastic out, and then you build up around it. Once you have it where it's supposed to be, you let it sit, and then you pour the sugar glass in when it's ready. Now we've got all of our ingredients measured out. We're gonna pour them all together into the pot, set it to high, and wait until it hits 302 degrees on our thermometers. Now, you don't need to touch this the entire time it's cooking. If you get tempted, just pretend you're an MSNBC correspondent and a new poll came out showing Bernie's #1. Act like it doesn't exist. Seriously though, don't fuck with it. our guillotine blades are cooling. Our gingerbread has fully cooled, so now we can start to make decisions about how we're going to decorate and put this together. Now, we don't need to decorate, okay? Not needed at all. You do need to make royal icing regardless of whether or not you decorate, just to glue the pieces together. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 of our cutouts, some of these little runners, the little thin strips that we chopped out, and we're going to glue them on, so that way when we do the other one on top of it, there's a little runner for the blade to move up and down. I will admit, it doesn't always go that smoothly, but you can do it. For the rest of us who are going to decorate, here's what I recommend. Here's at least how I decorated. Now, I wanted a wood grain effect, so I made my royal icing brown. So I'm going to take this brown royal icing and I'm going to pipe around the edges of my guillotines, and then I'm going to do flood icing where you just fill in the middle. I'm going to let it dry, and then the tricky bit is you take a paintbrush and you dip it in a little bit of brown food coloring and a little bit of water, and you just brush on top, and then you go back over with a little bit of black food coloring dipped in water, very thin amount. Same thing, a few brush strokes, and at the end of it, what you get is this very nice wood grain effect, which is lovely. All right, everything has been piped and decorated, and we're just waiting for it to fully set before we mess with it anymore, before we put in the guillotine blade and sort of decorate the fringes here. This part's a little challenging, you just need to wait, but your patience will be rewarded because once it's fully ready, you'll have the ultimate gingerbread weapon, which is Conor McGregor's out on Twitter. All right, it has been setting overnight. I put the guillotine blade in place, I put some decorative elements on it, and it looks so freaking incredible. Honestly, it looks better than I thought it would. I haven't been this excited since the first time I beat a video game on my own. Metal Gear Solid, in case you were curious. It was fucking exciting. Without further ado, Gingerbread Guillotine. Looks awesome, right? So excited with the way it turned out. But questions remain, the main one being, how fully functioning is the fully functioning gingerbread guillotine? I contacted the pastry people and they said they had somebody recently convicted of death by guillotine. Fucking monocle. Anyway, we're gonna test it on this dude and see if it works, and then probably eat the remains regardless. It's gonna be delicious. A little raspberry blood and everything. Fucking great. All right, let's do it. That worked so much better than I thought I was going to. All right, well, it's been fun. The recipes are in the notes below. Comment, let me know what you thought. If you're gonna test it out, I'd love to hear how it went for you. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed it. We'll have more for you soon. Thanks again, y'all. See you next time. Alright, now which of you delicious headless gingerbread am I going to dip into this raspberry blood like? I think you, Mr. Mustachioed Man.